Peace, 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 family. Hope all is well. Today is September 14th, 2020. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a thing. So today's topic will be the three intelligences: hormonal intelligence, emotional intelligence, and cerebral intelligence. These are three intelligences that are very important for every man and woman to have in this type of world that we live in. So we'll start with cerebral intelligence. Cerebral intelligence is critical thinking. And here you see on my hat it says critical thinking reigns supreme. I got it from KRS-One. Knowledge reigns supreme. Well, here I have critical thinking reigns supreme one, right? KRS is one of my biggest inspirations since the 80s. So cerebral intelligence is to be able to take data and information, because life is all about gathering data and information, and question all things that have been given to you, regardless of what the society or 7 billion people on the planet think. It's not what they think, it's what you observe and what conclusions you arrive based on your observation and test runs. If you can't pressure test what it is that you're subscribing to, then you're kind of falling into non-critical thinking, where you want critical thinking, which is cerebral intelligence. So cerebral intelligence always revolves around not taking things for face value, but stepping back and looking at the value that you're facing. That's critical thinking. To use discernment and wisdom. Wisdom doesn't lie in seeing things, but seeing through things. This also has everything to do with critical thinking, right? To be able to look at a situation and dissect it and break it down and not take it for face value. And to be able to articulate what it is that you observed, what it is that you broke down, put it back together, unpack, put it back in the suitcase, unpack, put it back in the suitcase. What conclusions have you arrived at, right? Not because everybody else believes it in your family, friend, acquaintance circle, but because you have found truth in it, right? And not truth because it makes you feel good, but truth because it's truth. You're constantly trying to align with truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Most truths are very uncomfortable. This is cerebral intelligence, right? So then you have emotional intelligence, the second part. So emotional intelligence is being able to control your anger, your desires, your urges, basic fundamental human entities that exist there in every being. But these entities, the problem is they end up ruling over you, right? And so even your ego is also part of the emotional intelligence, right? Because the ego is there to step in to fill the gap of an insecurity, and the energy goes into motion in order to protect against something that you're feeling uncomfortable about, inferior to, right? It could create low self-esteem. So the ego now steps in. But when you have emotional intelligence, you know that the ego flies low, so intelligence can fly high, which goes back to cerebral intelligence. So all the intelligences are connected to one another, and it's very imperative to be able to master all three in order to optimize success in this type of world that we live in, that's booby-trapped everywhere you go. Everywhere you look, it's set up to have your urges, desires, your ego ruling over you instead of you ruling over it. The previous video I was talking about the Sphinx, where the pharaoh head is over the animal body, the lion body. That's the human, right? The human, which is also the woman as well, right? So you have both entities trying to discover self while having all these variables that exist within. This is like a pressure test, this body, in order for you to go through the laboratory experiment of self-discovery. So you have to go use this body and go through all the different emotion, desires of things that you experience, just to try to master that which is giving value to something outside of you that you observe anyway, that exists through your existence, through your experience, right? Because the reality of an external event is still rooted in the frame of reference, which is the observer, which is self. In the videos prior, I stated about the Doppler effect. I don't remember which video it was, but the Doppler effect is when the fire truck or police cars come in, really the fire truck, and when it's down the block, the wavelength of the sound begins to change as it gets closer to you, the pitch. When it reaches you, it changes. As it goes away, it changes again. Your experience is affecting the pitch of that wavelength that we call a siren. It's that deep, right? To have that understanding is also part of cerebral intelligence, because you're understanding the symbiotic relationship that you have with the wavelength of that signal, that siren, and how you being here affects the there as it's coming from a distance, as it reaches you and it passes you. All these things are related to self and experience, right? So you have cerebral intelligence, you have emotional intelligence, and here go the big one. You have to have hormonal intelligence, right? This society is a hypersexualized society. So your hormones, your testosterone and your estrogen are always being manipulated. These powers that be understand how to manipulate people. And nature is something that exists externally and internally within you. So nature, the sperm cell in the man wants to continue in another life through the sperm egg fusion. A woman's body is always ready and preparing itself to receive the sperm cell, you know, unless she's in menopause. But if she's still in the height of her youth, you know, in her 20s and her 30s, maybe somewhere in her 40s, depending on, every woman is different, her body's still always preparing to receive, right? And then when she receives, the society says, well, she's expecting, right? But the truth is that it takes both parties to create life. One is not more important than the other. One's a giver, one's a receiver. Masculine energy, feminine energy. Masculine principle, feminine principle, right? This is all part of understanding hormonal intelligence. And as a man, like for me, subjectively, I've never had an unplanned pregnancy, right? My son was planned with 3 days apart. Like I literally looked at a calendar and tried to land him on my birthday and fell short by 3 days. That's hormonal intelligence. I'm not just out here having random pregnancies and I don't know what I'm doing. No, I understand the science of the woman carrying for 270 days. I understand 9 months and I understand 40 weeks. So I can easily look up on the calendar and said from conception, 270 days, when should be the date of birth or birth date, where the body has fully developed around what was once the sperm cell, and now it takes on physical form. Central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, right? The organism with all these different organs that had to develop inside of the feminine principle after she receives from the masculine principle, right? This is all hormonal intelligence, right? So you have to have cerebral intelligence, emotional intelligence, hormonal intelligence. Those three are very important, right? So we can call it CEH, cerebral, emotional, hormonal intelligences. In this world, we have not been properly educated on that, and this is why you have such disarray, especially in the melanated community, right? You have broken homes because a lot of these children, most children are unplanned. I mean, let's just keep it 1,000, you know? So I try to train my son, plus most of the other men that rock with me, to understand that aspect. I try to explain to women as well, understand your cycle, understand your body, understand what it means to choose the right mate. Because once that friction happens and the act of sexual energy is happening, the friction is meant for a handoff to happen, like football. Quarterback, the masculine energy gives the tailback the feminine principle or energy, that handoff. She's the carrier now. She gets a handoff. She carries it for the days, months that I just expressed earlier. So, so these things are very important to understand. It's imperative for your survival and for you to be able to kind of navigate your future instead of letting things just happen just because and saying, well, I mean, there's no better time to have it than now anyway. I didn't plan it, but it was just meant to be. I don't live my life like that personally. I ain't knocking no one who does, but I have seen the results of those type of statements and choices and lifestyles, and it's not a good one. And we see it all in the community of melanated people, so-called black people, right? So I just wanted to drop that quick video real quick. Remember, let your last endeavor be your best endeavor. I repeat, let your last endeavor be your best endeavor. Hit that like button, it doesn't cost you a thing. Salute. Critical thinking reigns supreme. You see the back of the hat? Just to show you that I'm really about what I'm saying. I don't tap my body, but I tap my hats. Salute.